We moved forward on step number 47 and attached our last two body panels, which go on with 3 screws per panel right here. So we went ahead and got that one done. You will have to adjust this so it lines up as you put the rest of this on, and it's not hard at all. So we're going to now install our wing. The wing, if you look at it, it's going to fit on like this, in this direction. And we're going to use these 2 screw holes right here. You're going to have to find the little plastic washers on your trees, and they're connected to the wing if you're looking for them. And we will install them post haste. Just screw them until they touch. Do the same on the other one. And we have completed step number 47. And we get to move on. I believe that this is probably one of the last steps. I'll have to thumb forward in the manual, but I think this is one of our last steps for the body and the roll cage. There we go. We are all done. Alright, before we go any further, we're going to want to backtrack and pick up a few steps that we had set aside earlier. The first one is going to be to mount your rear shocks. If hindsight was 20/20, we would put these on before we put the body panels and whatnot on when it did say to put them on in the directions. The reason being is that you have to slide your screw through this hole, and the nut is buried back way up underneath in there, as you can see, just right there. And it is very difficult to get in there. You're going to have to take off your, what we ended up doing was taking off our roof lid and using a pair of needle nose pliers to hold the nut while we screwed them in. So you're going to want to go ahead and mount your rear shocks. And then the next thing that we skipped was putting on our antenna tube, which we're going to go ahead and do now. There is a small set screw that you should have left over, and we'll show you where that goes. So we're going to go ahead and slide the tube over our antenna, slide it in the hole, and then this teeny tiny little set screw goes right in beside it. We're going to screw that in, and basically it jams that antenna tube in there so it doesn't come out. So that's the antenna. So those are the 2 steps that we need to pick up before we go any farther. So now we'll move on. Alright, the next step here in step number 48, you're going to have to open up your bag J, which has a bunch of screws in it, and get them all ready to go. And as we're looking at putting the 2 halves together, we are noticing that there are a couple different screw types to work with. And you need to take a look at the little part down here, and it's showing us that in these 2 locations on the bottom of the chassis, we need to use a beveled screw. And on all the other locations, we're going to be using the button head screws. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up our antenna. It's going to take a little bit of doing here. We've been fooling around a little bit off camera. Make sure all your wires are tucked in, and that anywhere that there's a little post here, area for, or actually a little area for a post to set in, that there's no wires or anything in the way. You're going to go ahead and set this down on and get it started, and you're really just going to have to get on your fidget here. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you're going to have to wiggle things around until they line up. And a couple of the key points that we need to line up are underneath here, where the shocks mount up, on the front, and then also on the back here where this lines up. And you can see that there are some exposed posts as we go around, and wherever there's a screw here, we're going to have to go ahead and make sure everything lines up and that the screws properly go in. So I'm going to do this off camera. It's just too much fidgeting, and it's going to take a little while for you to get it. And once it goes into place, it just pops in. It's just a matter of wiggling everything around until it goes on. So we'll be right back. Alright, we got most of the body screws on the bottom here. And what I did, and what worked for me, you might want to try it as well, is I just started with one post. I got one post lined up, moved around to the next one, got it lined up and put in. Oops, looks like I need to tighten that one down a little more. Got it put in, and then you just keep going and just go around in a circle, take your time, and all of them do eventually line up. And then of course we have the last two, which are on the chassis, that use the beveled screw rather than the button heads. So we'll get those lined up. Next thing that we're going to do here is to mount our shocks up. The rears are already mounted to the chassis, so we're going to have to mount them to the A-arms. And then the fronts, we're going to have to mount both the top and the bottom on those. You will need a few parts, so go ahead and get those dug out. I already have them, and we're going to get rolling on that, seeing as how it is still part of step number 48. Okay, so I guess we'll start with the rear shocks. Take a look at the directions here, and the directions are going to tell us that they go in the forward set of holes. There's two sets of holes, one back and one forward. So we're going to align those up in here. Get a screw. Lining these up is always the fun part. There we go. Go ahead and screw that one in. And do the same on the other side. And again, we're going to go to the forward-most screw hole. Hey, we're getting a lot closer here. Gonna have a running car here in no time. There we go. So now we have both the rear shocks on, and we'll move to the front. Now the front ones are going to mount on, and we're going to put the screws through, and it's going to hold the front assembly portion to the shock tower and then to the front portion. So when we go all the way through, we're going to use the two longer screws that we have here and put those on. The other thing that we're going to need to do is get out these little washers. And you can see the part number on your tree. It's going to be down in the bottom left corner here. So we need to find my shocks. Ha! Oh, here they are. They're sitting in the little pocket for my cow mat. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's going to be easiest to put the bottom ones on first or the top portion on first. Let's go ahead and put the top portions on first. When we put these on, the little pivots are going to go from the front, and then we're going to put our screw through, and then we're going to put one of these washers on the back, like so, and then screw it in. And according to this, we are going to use the middle hole. You can peek underneath here. You can see that there are 3 holes, and we're going to put this in the middle one. And we need to push in and align up and make sure that the chassis or the roll cage portion is also being threaded on with this screw. So you have a big 3-piece sandwich there, and you don't want to miss any one of those parts. So we're going to go ahead, sorry about that, I'm going to screw that in, as you can see. And then we're going to put the shock down inside the A-arm and use the outermost hole on that. Grab another screw here. We're going to use the outermost hole. So we're going to get that pushed in. Sorry about missing the camera here. It's hard to hold this and work for the camera at the same time. We're back to porn position here. Nice long screw. Make sure you get your shock actually going through that screw. Put it on. And then we'll repeat the process on the other side. Okay, I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. We'll be right back. Alright, we got the other front shock on now, so we are shocked front and rear. Got those done. Now the last part of this step now is to attach the rear of the cage where all 3 of these pieces come together, or all 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to use the 2 remaining screws and put those in. You do want to make sure as you're screwing this in that the tips of the screws go into that center portion. Alright, that, my friends, was a difficult step for me. Just I took a lot of time to get all the screws aligned up and in, but once they're in once and they sit there for a while, they're going to form into the right position, and I'm sure be much easier to get on for the second time. So that's done, and that concludes step number 48. There we go. Look at that. It looks like an RC car now. Gotta love it.